All right, so here we are again. No, that's really cheesy.
I reckon. Hey,
You do it.
okay.
You start.
Hey Ben, it's take two. With the delay, we're gonna get this half a second latency. I suppose you are like 15,000 kilometers away, but yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, really, that it is about half a second. Yeah, but it obviously does give us that slight technical restriction to keep in mind. But we'll see how it runs. Yeah.
Well, it's our whole mission, isn't it? And vision to work with technical restrictions and overcome them.
Yeah, and of course AI is really, really speeding that up and helping us.
Yet we haven't got AI helping us here, really, have we?
No, and that's that's kind of a good thing, isn't it? Because this is our attempt at being authentic. We're here trying to actually represent us two human beings, the other side of the planet, talking from a sort of source of truth, a place of truth.
Yes.
And we don't want AI interfering with this. So the lag is there. We deal with it. Obviously we can edit it a little bit, we can be creative in post-production to try and smooth it out as much as possible. But yeah, absolutely. This is a real conversation between real humans, and that's great. I think that is going to be one of these things that is more and more important as time goes on here.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's understanding where the real value of AI is. It's not replacing humans at this level in terms of, this human-to-human engagement, which we can still have, even though we've yet to meet. And we're 15,000? I think it's 15,000 kilometers away. We don't want AI fiddling with any of that humanness of what we're doing. But doesn't mean we're not excited by it and how we've brought it into SetSeed and all the exciting, advances and improvements that we've seen this year especially.
I mean, it's just been such a crazy thing to see how it's improved what we're able to do at SetSeed in terms of the speed that we can do things, but not just in terms of the speed we can do things, rather it's actually the level to which we can take things. We're able to deliver on customer requests that we just would not have been able to do within the kind of budget requirements previously. It's absolutely incredible.
I think you and I have always approached projects for customers as an iterative experience. In other words, we believe in ourselves enough to know that our platform can solve the problem and come up with the solution over the course of that journey. And AI has, if anything, once we've got our head around it and how that can work within our framework, has really enhanced and sped up that process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm going to stop saying yeah, absolutely. I've got to do that. I've got to work out another way of just answering without saying that.
Yeah. You should add that in too, by the way. These little outtakes are fun. We were quite hesitant about AI initially. Everyone was jumping on the whole bandwagon. Automating emails, automating kind of this chat response stuff, which has value, but in practice, I don't know about you, Ben, but all I got was an influx of more and more AI generated, I'm going to call it crap. And then it got spooky, scary crap where it kind of would scrape information about you, whether it was on your LinkedIn channel or where it could find it. And it would create kind of spooky automated emails, which for me personally further pushed me back on the whole idea of where's the value of AI. And it wasn't until we, and you can speak to this more, Ben, but it wasn't until we refactored SetSeed as a framework to allow us to bring the likes of, in this case, Claude Code, although we've made it flexible enough for others as well, that we saw the real value. That's my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God.
Is that all right? If we talk about things like that? Or
that was great. Yeah, that was great. I'm just conscious that if we do these bouncing between us, and if I start every time if I say yeah, absolutely, it's going to just sound really annoying. So I'm just conscious of that. I've just got to work out another way of it. But the thing is, in real life conversation, I do say stuff like that all the time, but I'm slightly conscious that these things on podcast style things do get irritating. I'm trying to come back without reinforcing what you said, but I do actually completely agree with what you're saying. And
How do you agree
exactly
with
right.
just the naturally agree or disagree? Yeah.
That's a really interesting element of this, because you don't get that sense with a professional podcast. They obviously are very clever about how they do conversations, because I think the reality is we don't actually want a real life conversation, because a real life conversation for someone else is pretty boring. If we're delivering value in this, it needs to be, as you say, exactly that, like not just starting with me reinforcing stuff. It needs to just be the pithy element of the conversation as we progress through what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's just going to be part of the way we develop these skill sets.
Totally. Yeah, I think a really good podcast just has that natural back and forward, ebb and flow of a conversation. So we're working it out as we go.
Yeah, I think one of the main differences is that with a normal podcast, you have a very defined role of the host and the guest, and we're doing that a little bit differently because we're just trying to sort of recreate this conversation idea, which I think has real value, but it does also make it quite difficult for us in that we don't have a professional podcast host leading the direction in which we're going, which I think a lot of people, neither of us are professional podcast hosts, and we're not. I mean, you've obviously done quite a lot of these kind of interview things, so I think obviously being interviewed by someone is just always that bit easier, and now we're not really in either of those roles. We are just kind of both having this conversation, and that is quite a new thing for us to navigate.
Yeah, currently I'm imagining you at the end point of the lens of the camera. So I'm seeing you in my mind as I hear you in my voice.
Yeah, I think that's a good way.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice way of thinking about it. I think this idea of us literally starting each of our comebacks with yes is going to be something we're going to have to really work. I don't know how we're going to solve that. we'll have to practice. We'll come up with something. I'm sure it'll be part of this journey. This is I think that's what's interesting about doing this test, is we're realizing that this is actually a thing with a set of requirements to pull this off, and it not just be super weird with us just saying yes and back to you and yes and back to you. For it to sound natural, it is actually, there are a kind of set of requirements that we have to succeed in to pull this off, and that's what we're going to learn, hopefully, and make it happen.
Yeah, and that is such a good segue into, just off the top of my head here, into the power of developing something that's really good, whether that's the UI, the interface, or behind the scenes, that it's a lot of work to pull off simplicity and overcome the complexity of what's going on in the background, which pretty much sums up our journey together in tech, isn't it? It's how do you make it
sums everything up. All of the things that are perceived to be effortlessly brilliant, there's always just an unimaginable amount of effort and hard work behind the scenes to make it look like that. That is the case with all disciplines, isn't it? And I think this is no exception to that, and certainly there's no exception to that in our software.
No, and that's where AI has actually really benefited us, is it because it helps, it assists with that complexity of simplifying the journey for you as a developer to the outcome. I think, you might disagree here, Ben, but I think the real value in AI is that like massive donkey where it just can carry that complexity for you and output something that's elegant and simplified, as long as you know what the outcome is meant to be.
Yeah, AI is just this massive problem in so many areas. It's going to be so hard for people to look at and realize, is it good or is it bad? Because at the same time, it's both. This is what we're going to see, isn't it? It has this potential to be such a disaster on so many levels for so many reasons. But at the same time, of course, it is also incredible, and it's going to offer incredible benefits and incredible advantages to so many areas of our lives. yet also at the same time having the potential to be wildly misused by governments and those in power against us as, you know, civilians, and all of these kinds of themes. And we're just going to have to navigate this as just this flood of drastic change that we've never seen the likes of before as a society. And, you know, obviously on the short term, where we're at right now, it is allowing us to speed up that mechanical process at the base of our kind of development life cycle in SetSeed. You know, we're able to just blast through stuff, you know, moving loads of code around, writing new functions and all of this stuff that just takes time. Normally it can just drastically speed up, because obviously when we're rolling things out sort of as the architect behind the direction that we're taking this, in my mind I've got all these features and the roadmap that we're following and the things I want to deliver on. I can visualize how all that plays out. The donkey work of actually writing all of that stuff by hand is the bottleneck. It's not my sort of approach to what I'm doing that's the bottleneck. The donkey work is the bottleneck, and AI is the bit that comes in and just, you know, drastically diminishes that to the point where we can just deliver these things now so fast, and it's incredible. And it's been very interesting watching how the community is receiving this. There is still a huge area of coders and developers that are really rejecting this. They hate the idea of it, and I this has been fascinating to me, because for me, I feel I love it. You know, this is just a dream come true for me, because I've never really liked that boring part of coding, the mechanical part of coding. For me, it's all conceptual. It's designing functionality. It's the big picture stuff. That's the way I think about software development. So this for me has just truly been a dream come true, and it is just so rewarding and so fun to be able to build software using AI. I think this is just wildly exciting part of the way it's going now.
Yeah, and I mean, heck, the reason I reached out and found you in the first place is that all those years ago is that I kind of had this idea of, and I think if anything, AI has in some way demonstrated this problem by trying to solve it. Is I'm interested in how do you bring things together. In a practical way, everyone wants to build like the perfect room when it comes to software, but what if you want to connect it all together? You know, what if you want the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the kitchen and the hallway to all be connected elegantly? And that's the reason I kind of reached out in the first place, because you had developed an early version of SetSeed that was solving that elegance of that right down to the code level. And, you know, we've come a long way since. But what I've seen this year is with AI is a real hyper speed of that, creating that perfect room. But it still doesn't necessarily solve the problem of connecting everything together. And it wasn't until we looked at SetSeed as how do we bring AI into that framework so that we can still build the perfect house architecturally, without creating this first wave problem. And I think AI is delivering. It's like, hey, here's the perfect room, but you want to go further than that? Well, you're going to have to either start again or bring in another tool that might not be so compatible as what you're wanting. And there's still a lot of that, isn't there? So you're right, that AI is actually creating problems as well as solving so many problems at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point. It's that without somebody somewhere knowing where to steer the AI, it has the potential to open so many more doors than is going to be useful. And you know, it can generate code so fast that before you know it, you'll be drowning in stuff that you don't really know what to do with. And I think that's been so fascinating about the way we've sort of started building in what we already had, because we have such a well-designed piece of software architecturally. You know, everything is in the right place already. So when we now are starting to run with this by building new things with AI into our existing framework, they're going in at the right place. We've got this layer that is designed specifically for project-specific tailoring and customization. So this is where we can just go so fast now, and it's safe and it's in the right place, and it builds on top of the rest of the platform like that. So when we have a customer come to us and ask for, you know, X, Y, and Z as their requirements, we know where we're going to build that stuff, and we can go straight in there, and we can use that as that sort of restraint for AI to work and it's to do its best work within that space in a way that isn't going to kind of just spill out and cause chaos. And that's been just brilliant to see that come together based on the existing setup that we already have.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I almost like to call it, it's more like a fluid framework. It gives us the freedom to tailor a solution knowing that everything is already connecting together. We're not going to create this massive thing that falls over, because to be fair, we work so hard on getting that framework right, which we did before AI even came along, right, Ben? I've still got that visual map that we created that mapped all the inbound, outbound journey of users and data and everything. And we tried to visualize it years ago of, can we create a framework or a platform that can encapsulate every interaction in, cross, through, out, without having the whole thing fall over. So in a way, we kind of prepared ourselves for AI without even realizing it.
This is really a fascinating thing, because it's all these user flows, isn't it, that I think you're articulating there, and how they all map through our application and our approach to this. And on the one hand, we sort of consider ourselves this all-in-one solution, but we're also really keen on this Unix philosophy idea where we talk about individual tools doing individual things well. And on first glance, those two concepts sort of sound like they're exclusive. And it's interesting sort of considering what it is, because in so many ways you've got all these different, our competing products. If we were to look at what our customers could replace with our software, it would be a whole range of different individual subscriptions to different individual things. So in a way we call ourselves this all-in-one package, but it's not really that. It's more that this idea that they might have loads of different subscriptions to different tools, that's actually just a really inferior way of doing something that should be done by one thing. It's not that we're an all-in-one thing doing lots of different things, like a jack of all trades, master of none idea. That's not what's going on at all. It's that actually the definition of what the one thing is our software. It's a product that does the online customer experience. That is one thing. To split that up into smaller things is a mistake. Those aren't the individual roles. It's almost by definition what we've done here. It has to be the one thing, because really a customer on your website is also a customer that will receive an email. So they shouldn't be two separate tools doing that. That's just the wrong way of doing it completely. It's not that we've replaced two separate tools with an inferior all-in-one version. It is supposed to be one thing from the start.
And I mean all-in-one, I get feedback. People go, have you built something that's really big and clunky and it's going to be a beast? And I'm like, well, it's not the right approach. It's like, you could argue a car is an all-in-one platform. It's designed to get you from A to B. But I feel like in software that we're focusing so much on, look, it's the best store in the world you're ever going to have. And it's going to open beautifully. But the best door isn't going to get you to B. And I think in a way we're looking beyond, without arrogantly, because there's some beautiful systems out there. We're looking beyond the endpoint to what's the actual purpose of taking someone from A to B, right? So that customer experience, that customer focus. I mean, I think that's the most exciting aspect of what we've built here in terms of what we can deliver. Is that the end point has always been is about taking a customer from A to B. Whether that is, like you're saying, filling out a form or purchasing something or being added to a database and then someone else being able to work with that securely and safely, and then being able to generate dashboards and display that, and then about being able to trigger emails and things. I don't see those as a complexity as a platform, even though they are. I see that as like an elegant solution of being able to get a customer from A to B.
And I think it's exactly, that's the point. The way we've approached this is, if we consider this from the business's customers, right? So our customers, if the way that they were interfacing with that business was through lots of different tools, their experience would be worse. So of course, by us providing a solution that makes the experience better for their customers, that is the goal achieved. You know, that's that human perception of that online experience is made much better by having everything in one place, because they know that they're not having to tell different bits of software the same piece of information over again. Because we see this all the time when you're interacting with businesses, don't you? And it's incredibly frustrating if you have to go somewhere and you tell one support team, you fill it all out and you explain your problem and all this, and then it gets moved off to some other system once you're into a different area. It's like, that's the kind of thing that we're trying to eradicate by providing this all in one solution. But of course, you know, I think actually we should move away from the phrase all in one. I'm not sure it's the right term, because it sort of implies that we have combined things, and usually the result of doing that kind of thing is that you end up with this kind of clunkier version, and that's just so misrepresenting what we're actually doing here, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I don't like all in one. I think customer experience platform is a better articulation of what we're achieving here. You know, a digital experience platform, but all those things can throw up, you know, what is it? What are you benchmarking yourself against? I'm enjoying more and more focusing on what the customer is wanting and the pain they're experiencing, as opposed to what we're building for scalability, if you know what I mean. That's the wrong articulation, but the journey of startups and software development and SaaS and everything and AI is all about how do we build something up then that we can then sell, you know, and how can a lot of people make a lot of money on that process. I see a lot of that chatter and then those big wins on that, but I don't see a lot on, you know, what is the customer feeling, you know, and that hyper focus on the customer experience and in the way they're articulating it. You know, there's that stuff tends to get filtered out, but I think there's real, you know, we get it too. You know, when someone has a problem, they're like, hey, you know, I'm doing this and this is not the experience that I'm wanting, or I don't understand, and you know, we can jump in and quickly sort that. But remaining there is the fertile ground of how you build something out, is being customer focused.
I think that's you know, really representative of the way I think about the way businesses are going to work with each other in this AI era as well. I think we're just going to see this kind of doubling down on the way that a business can provide a tailored niche experience, because obviously it's going to allow businesses to do more of what they wanted to do faster and to more of their audience. Sort of wrap this one up, we've obviously covered a fair few kind of SetSeed concepts in this one. I think in future episodes we'll touch on other stuff. We'll share our own experiences in other areas, and lots of other exciting things to come.